time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go.
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
What a week it's been. We have a whole new trailer for a new animated series coming out on Disney Plus called Tales of the Empire, so we're going to check that out. We've got Kirk in the Escape Pod as our guest this week, and as always, I'm your host, Josh. This is Star Wars Escape Pod. We're going to be diving into not only Tales of the Empire trailer, but the next 2 episodes of The Bad Batch, which premiered last week on April 3rd. This is episode 10 and 11, Identity Crisis and Point of No Return. For those of you who haven't seen The Bad Batch, feel free to tune out after the Tales of the Empire breakdown, but we're going to get into that one first and then hit The Bad Batch after. So it's great to have you along for the ride. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
Why do you seek Imperial favor?
Years ago, my people were all but destroyed. My anger gives me strength. It is that strength I offer the Empire.
Offer accepted.
I'm here to present you with an opportunity, Barriss.
Just be glad you're not a Jedi anymore.
Your path is set, Morgan Elsebeth. I will fulfill my destiny.
Mercy only breeds defeat. But I will help you overcome this weakness. Attack!
You said the Empire would help to change things.
Everything comes at a cost. My world has been burning since I was a child. You cannot stop what has begun.
Now you must face one final test. To join us. It is time you meet your new master. Long live the Empire.
All right, well, that was a pretty crazy trailer. Hey, Kirk?
I'm excited for it. I want to watch it now. Send me a advanced copy, please, Lucasfilm.
Oh man, yeah, it'd be pretty insane to watch that. And May 4th, that's when the show releases. So I think a lot of people are pretty stoked for that. I'm pretty excited, and it looks
Not
like
even a month away. 3 weeks.
I know, right? Like they waited so long to release this trailer, but let alone announce that this show was kind of getting I guess a release. I mean, like, it's kind of weird because a lot of us thought that Tales of the Jedi would just go for a second season, and here we are with like kind of another spin-off show called Tales of the Empire. So once again borrowing its name from a Star Wars expanded universe novel from long ago, but yeah, it's pretty neat. We're seeing the return of Barriss Offee, which is, a character that a lot of us have been wondering for a long time, just when we're going to see again. Those fans of Clone Wars and stuff like that. And also Morgan Elsebeth, a character that recently had her demise in Ahsoka season 1. And, a character that we were introduced to in The Mandalorian season 2, I believe. And now we're getting her backstory. So it's pretty cool to see that come to fruition. And it looks like it's going to be an 8-episode show, which is slightly longer than the Tales of the Jedi show, which I think was 6 episodes a piece, maybe. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this show?
I'm so excited for it. I loved how the end title sequence, it started off as Tales of the Jedi and then it quickly burned away.
Yeah,
it's pretty good emphasis on the show. Yeah, it was great. As we know, I'm a huge fan of Andor, so this just seems like a more Force-sensitive focus version of Andor. And yeah, I'm really keen. I hope they release all the episodes at once so we can just watch them all together.
They do. Yeah, they do. I think the whole show just streams on May 4th, so that's pretty cool. If I'm not mistaken, I think all the episodes come out that day. But yeah, what's really
brilliant.
What's cool about this trailer, at least from what we're looking at, is two different time frames. But Morgan Elsebeth's story kind of spans a larger time frame than Barriss Offee. So. For those who hadn't seen the Clone Wars, Barriss Offee was the apprentice of Luminar Unduli, who was a Jedi Master. Barriss fought in the Clone Wars. She fought on the Battle of Geonosis, and she was a friend to Ahsoka Tano through most of the Clone Wars as well. And later on in Season 5, she frames her friend Ahsoka for bombing the Jedi Temple, which was a pretty extreme way of her kind of sending a message to the Jedi about them not being who they're supposed to be. And it was a very kind of Jedi Republic political thing. And not much was said about it after that episode arc, which is too bad because it was such a big deal and a big event for a Jedi to kind of betray their own and bomb the temple and stuff. But I've always really liked that story arc, and I've always wondered what they would do with the character. There was a lot of speculation when Star Wars Rebels came out that the seventh sister was actually Barriss Offee because she kind of had that skin tone and she had the same sort of tattooed, cheeks, and that character was played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, so it was a different actress entirely, and turned out not to be Barriss Offee. But to this day, like I think since season 5 came out, which is back in 2012, I want to say, we haven't had any follow up at all on Barriss's character. So it's really cool to finally get this story because I think so many of us had almost given up hope that it would ever be revisited. But a lot of people wondered maybe like what happened to her after the Clone War, and where was she being held in prison this whole time? And so we're finally getting that story. She's becoming one of the Inquisitors. We see a few familiar faces in there, including the fourth sister, who was the one of the Inquisitors that showed up in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you remember that one? The one with the sort of the yellow tentacles kind of like behind her head?
Yes.
Yeah. So she shows up. She looks like she's going to be playing a prominent role in the show as well. Perhaps as a mentor or whatever. I kind of wish they were a little more unified with this whole Inquisitorious plot line, because we've seen new stories pop up every now and again that just kind of either changes the design to an Inquisitor or adds another one in the mix, and they just have no mention or indication that they're sort of part of the organization in earlier stories. Star Wars Rebels, being the first to feature the Inquisitors, much later in the timeline, they sort of disappear after a certain while, and while there's only a few of them left at that point, you kind of wonder, who are all the other ones? Right. And then these stories come out like the Darth Vader comic book series and Jedi Fallen Order. And you slowly start to be able to fill out, okay, this is the, third brother, fourth brother, etc. Right. But there's a book that we read, I think not too long ago now. I think it was last year. And it was called Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. And it featured the Inquisitor called Iskat Sikaris, I think her name was. And she was in the Darth Vader comic book. There was a bit of a tie-in there with how she ends up. And I just really liked her. I liked her character a lot, but the book itself was not that great. Like it just didn't really fulfill, I guess, the expanse of just what they could have done with that character's psychology and just why a Jedi would kind of go bad. And there was no mention of Dooku at all. Like in this character's internal thoughts, there was no mention of this Jedi that once became a Sith Lord, which I thought was kind of weird that it skipped over that whole thing. And it basically spanned the entire length of the Clone Wars and then some after. So there was weird things about the book that just kind of like didn't really sit as well with me. But of course, no mention of a character like Barriss. And you'd think that, you know, Barriss, this plot line here looks like it takes place very soon after episode 3. So, you know, I would imagine that, you know, a character like this with a role like that would know about this other character. But it's always tough, you know, making a saga that stories coming out at different points of time and all this and that. It's almost just a casualty of the nature of story building a saga, you know, at multiple points, you know, here and there, which I imagine is quite the challenge, right?
I'm hoping we get a bit more of an insight on these Inquisitors as a whole and the whole Inquisitor program throughout this albeit pretty short story series. But maybe there's room for an Inquisitor specific show in the future. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, that would be. I would really appreciate an Inquisitor show, or just anything that really kind of dives deeper into that plot line, because.
The only problem I just realized with that is that I know some people complain that there are too many Jedi that are like alive up until this point. And if you make an Inquisitor show, you need to make more Jedi that are alive, I guess.
That's the other thing, and not to mention that all the Inquisitors were Jedi, right? Like that's the other kind of shocking part of that whole brigade is you know, they were all once Jedi. So it's almost like, I guess, I don't know if it makes it like worse in universe, like, you know, like a more twisted tale to say that many people were, you know, feeling the way that they did, that they aligned themselves with a Sith Lord, or if it's just like you know, getting out of hand in the sense that they do keep adding Inquisitors to the group, and it's you know, in a way it's like, okay, like when is it gonna end? Like when are we gonna hit our limit as far as introducing new Inquisitorious characters? But you know, I guess it's you know, everyone's got their preference. I'm still undecided as to how I think about it, but I'm just really excited to see Barriss back. And you know, I've always wanted her to be an Inquisitor, like the entire time that we've known that these characters exist. Like I've always thought it would be such a great decision to make her one, but maybe they just haven't had this chance to tell that story up until now. So very cool to see. Morgan Elsebeth, on the other hand, I mean, like, you know, you remember her from Mando and Ahsoka? I mean,
I sure do. And the problem I have with, I think Morgan Elsebeth was an amazing character up until spoilers for Ahsoka show. If anyone hasn't seen it yet.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they killed her off right at the end of Ahsoka.
They did, yeah.
She's So yeah, the problem I have is that it's like, oh, I just know what's going to happen with this character now, and it kind of makes me feel a little bit less impactful. I feel like before we saw her death, I wanted to see so much more of that character because she was so fascinating when she first turned up in episode 5, season 2 of Mandalorian. I thought she was an awesome opponent as the city warden. We'll see. It looks like we're going to see a bit more of that at that town, because I think that's actually my favorite Mando episode out of all of them. I love that episode a lot.
Right.
So yeah, I'm keen to see her a bit more, but it's just a bit of a shame that we know where she ends up. But then again, I guess we do know where half these characters end up most of the time anyway.
Yeah. So you're saying it would have been a better decision to air this show, I guess, prior to the ending of Ahsoka then, I guess, hey?
Yeah, it kind of just reminds me of, you know, in Force Awakens, they again, not more spoilers, but it's been 7 years now. It's been 9 years now since The Force Awakens. Never mind, it's been a long time since Han Solo got killed by his son, and then like 18 months later, they then decide to do a movie about Han Solo. So I don't know, it kind of reminds me of that, but it doesn't really matter. They're just short stories, and I'm kind of keen to see more about that town. What's the city called? I don't remember what planet, but it's wherever Mando finds Ahsoka from.
Yeah, I totally forget the name of that city. Man, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but it's chapter 13, The Jedi, from season 2, and it was a great episode. I mean, it's Corvus. That's the name of the planet. Planet Corvus.
Corvus.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the Corvus ship in Battlefront.
Right. Yeah. So something that I noticed, at least from this particular trailer, was Okay, first off, like young Thrawn, very cool to see. This lines up perfectly with Timothy Zahn's second Thrawn trilogy. Yeah, so if anyone's read Thrawn Alliances, big Thrawn novel out there, features Anakin / Vader on the cover, depending on which version you have. And he was there in the Clone Wars just as a very silent observer, watching, the galaxy. And he was sent out by the Ascendancy, because the Chiss Ascendancy, that where his home world and where he's from is from the very, very far outer reaches of space, to the point where almost anyone in known territory, there's kind of whispers that these people are out there and that they exist, but like no one's really encountered a Chiss before. So it's very cool to see him in his sort of Clone Wars era uniform. He's not yet aligned with the Empire typically, but it's very interesting to see him developing alliances with people like Morgan, which kind of bring in the relevance of that relationship later on, when we watch a show like Ahsoka or such and such. Morgan is a nightsister, and if anyone has seen season 3 of the Clone Wars, there is I think it's season 3 or season 4. There's an arc in there where Grievous just comes in as a wrecking ball and just kills all the nightsisters, right? So it looks like we're going to be revisiting that plot and seeing more footage that takes place in that raid. They're going to be expanding upon that story a bit more than what we saw in the Clone Wars episode that we got. And it looks like maybe he's got like a full campaign of the planet, that he's going to be like going around to different villages, and taking out all these other nightsister clans, right? Because we see him take out Mother Talzin's clan and where Ventress is, but we don't see him, go ham on all the other parts of the planet. And it's a whole planet, right? So there's Nightsisters kind of here and there. Like there's areas like where Merrin is from Fallen Order. Merrin's
my favorite Nightsister. I think she's definitely got the best the best character arc for sure.
Totally.
Out of all Nightsisters, she's fantastic.
Totally. They all have something in common, which is to basically they all have something in common, which is like Grievous came in, killed all of them. So it looks like Morgan is going to be a survivor of that event, which, as we know, she is. And, she, we see like droids just like burning down the forest in her homeworld and stuff like that. But we also get footage later on in her life, kind of like in the Star Wars Rebels era, where perhaps that's when she took, she's part of the Empire-ish now, I guess, or somehow. And, takes over as magistrate, or maybe she's not with the Empire. Maybe she's just aligned with Thrawn. And, she's in that town, like you said, and there's a shot of her troops like burning down the woods, which in the Mandalorian episode, we see the woods completely, it's been burned, right? It's all been destroyed. So this story arc with Morgan, I think, is going to be very expansive in terms of like explaining just where she started and where she ended up in the Mandalorian show. So it's going to fill in all those gaps that we get, that we don't have the story for yet. So I'm very much looking forward to that too. Anything else you want to bring up for this show?
No, not particularly. I think General Grievous looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
From what I've seen in the trailer so far, he looks absolutely mad. I'd love to see. Now that is a TV show I would watch, like a full length series or even a movie just on General Grievous throughout the Clone Wars and a lot of time. I think he's awesome. Like imagine if they did a General Grievous but like a horror Star Wars movie. That'd be great.
Oh man, yeah.
He looks good.
How he like subjects himself to like the surgery to make him a cyborg and stuff. Like, oh man, that'd be awesome.
Oh, it'd be so good. It'd be so good.
Yeah.
What else is there? I think that's about it in the trailer. I think there was one scene I noted when they had the Grand Inquisitor threw the lightsaber into the pit for the battle for the Inquisitor. I thought that was pretty badass, pretty gladiator type fighting. Just reminds me that these they're absolutely not targeting children and stuff for these shows anymore. I guess that's what the what's the new Young Jedi Academy show that's out now?
Young Jedi Adventures.
Isn't that interesting though? Like those shows there are so very obviously targeted for kids, but like 10-12 years ago the Clone Wars was more so targeted for kids. Yet like the divide of how different these pieces of content were is like so great.
Oh, definitely. It's a noticeable difference between these kids and those kids, right? It's like different age group for sure. But yeah, it's nice to get shows like this, which are also, very much for, teenagers, adults, and, and anyone that that anyone can enjoy. Because yeah, I do find it a bit of a struggle to get through Young Jedi Adventures. I'm gonna be honest. I've watched half the show, but it's it's a hard pill to swallow. That's the 3D.
That's the 3D animated one, isn't it? It's not the It's not Rise. It's not Rise of Resistance.
No, it's not. It's not Resistance.
Yeah, okay.
No. But I had a hard time with that one too. Yeah. All right. So
it doesn't quite push forward the canon now, does it?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was something I appreciated about it, was it did fill in some gaps here and there, but most of the show I thought was a bit fluffy. So. But there you go. Tales of the Jedi coming out May 4th. Release possibly 8 episodes featuring Barriss and Morgan. Lots of stories that we're looking forward to. And I'm going to play a quick message here, and then we'll dive into the Bad Batch.
Ruled with fear. You also did not listen to Star Wars Escape Pod. If you know what's good for you, tune in, subscribe, share this show with a partner in crime, and leave a good review.
Well, there we go.
Thanks, Tamura.
Thanks, Tamura. Alrighty. Well, shall we get into the Bad Batch? Shall we? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. It turns out for some reason the main theme song is gone from the soundboard.
That was me singing.
Yeah,
just in case anyone thought it was so good. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course it wouldn't be Star Wars Escape Pod without the main theme song. So that's yeah. Thank you, Kirk. But here we go. Here it is.
Here we go.
All right, episode 10 of season 3, Identity Crisis, was written by Saul Ruiz and directed by Saul Ruiz, written by Amanda Rose Manu. Came out April 3rd. Hemlock has had Nala Se imprisoned, believing she helped Omega and Crosshair escape. He reluctantly promotes Emery to be the new lead scientist of Project Necromancer. Emery slowly becomes disillusioned with the Empire as she learns that the subjects being tested on are children with high M counts and witnesses the cold brutality of how they are being treated. She also sees Cad Bane deliver a new child subject who's even younger than the others. Tarkin threatens to take away Hemlock's funding if his facility does not produce the desired results. CX2 reports to Hemlock that he is close to finding Omega after learning about her connection to Phee. So there we go. That's the summary for episode 10. What did you think about this one?
I think this was a pretty nice episode. It was a bit of a divert. There was no Bad Batch at all in this episode, but I think they're setting up episode 12, which is the one after the next one we'll talk about, because I'm sure as things will happen, we'll see where it goes. But it was not a bad episode. I think it was just to give us a bit more insight into the Project Necromancer. But then again, it didn't give us too much insight onto what's going on behind there.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the inside look finally behind that red lasered tunnel that we've been getting glimpses at this whole time, wondering kind of what's back there. And it turns out it's just a bunch of kids with a high M count. And at first I thought, really, that's it? And then I guess, I don't know what it was about it, but I just thought, man, this has really come full circle. Like, this is actually really like kind of twisted on, in the sense of the Empire, but very well appropriately placed in terms of story, because anyone who's seen the Clone Wars will remember that Palpatine's always had a thing for kidnapping children and using them for his own gain. And one of the plot lines was actually with Cad Bane initially in season 2 of the Clone Wars. There was an arc called the Holocron Heist, and Cad Bane has to break into the Jedi Temple, steal a holocron from the archives, and then get a special Kyber crystal, which one particular Jedi has, which has the names of all the future Jedi inscribed on it, and or all the candidates, I guess, and all the ones they found, and has to kill him for that crystal, and then find a living Jedi, to put the crystal in the holocron so that they can access the list. And via that list, he's able to kidnap a couple of these younglings, very, very young, like small, too young to go to the Jedi Temple yet, but they're still with their parents. and they're probably 1-2 years old kind of thing. And I think he kidnaps like a Rhodian and like 2 other kids, and he takes them to a lab on Mustafar. And Anakin and Ahsoka are highly involved in this plot line, and they end up going and rescuing the kids. Cad Bane gets away, and they never find out who's behind it. But Palpatine was behind it all along, and he says to Cad Bane in that story arc, like, I have foreseen army of young Jedi. He kind of goes on and on about like all his evil deeds and everything like that. But do you remember that story by any chance?
I have to admit, I don't remember that story. That dates back before my memory. I'll have to go back and have a look.
Okay, yeah. So like, children have always kind of been part of Palpatine's evil deeds. It's whether it's like turning him into like his own agents or whatever. Kind of makes sense. If we're still going with the theory that Palpatine has foreseen his death and he's looking for a way to continue his cloning, his experimentation, which Project Necromancer flows into the Mandalorian thing with Moff Gideon and that cloning procedure there. So assuming that this is Palpatine's thing and, originally all along and he's trying to make clones of himself, it would explain that he would naturally kind of rely on innocent children that can't really fight back to experiment with, and they're trying to find the right concoction of M count and blood type to, I guess, use to source for his clone, like for a viable body, I guess, that would produce, something for him. And, within Star Wars lore, cloning of force people, or people who have a high M count and can use the force is very difficult to do. So, I like the fact that they're kind of extensively going on this long train ride, as to like how that has to be done and who they need. And Omega happens to be the right person for this experiment to work. So that's why we get this tug of war back and forth constantly with Omega and all this and that. But it's very, very neat to see, a character like Emery sort of be awakened to the evil deeds of the Empire and the Emperor's like experiments. That was kind of neat to get into. What did you think of that? Like her character kind of developing into this, I guess someone who's able to care a little bit more. She gives that one kid Omega's like stuffy that she made out of straw, and I don't know. Did you get any like prison Andor vibes from this episode or any kind of
a little bit? Obviously, the one thing that this has that Andor doesn't have is you've got Emery that's a bit more empathetic towards these characters that are stuck, or these kids that are stuck into the in the prison. Mm-hmm. I think what was fascinating to me was Emery's conversation with Nala Se when she went to go visit him, whatever the it is. I thought that conversation was interesting. I'm very much so expecting Emery now to free and release these kids or attempt to, and she might die trying in a future episode. But yeah, I think it was quite good. Going back to what you were saying before, when they opened up the gates and went, and it was for reveal that they were storing 4 children in there, I think I was expecting something a little bit more grander. Like I was expecting when Obi-Wan visited Fortress Inquisitorius and there was all of those Jedi frozen in that resin-looking collection when he saw all that, when he was going to rescue Leia. Yeah, I was expecting something a little bit similar to that, like all these like Jedi maybe hooked up to stuff and them trying to take out midichlorians from them and all these other things.
A little more Matrixy.
It just seemed like a big climax. Yeah, something a little bit more like I mean, not to say that Palpatine, kidnapping and experimenting on Force-sensitive children is a wonderful thing. It most certainly is not. But I was expecting something a little bit grander and a little bit. There's more reasons for it to be under that significant amount of protection.
I feel you.
Because I think was it in the second or maybe the third episode when Palpatine visited the base? Is it Hemlock? What's the guy's name?
Hemlock, the guy in charge there.
That's right, with the really terrible haircut. When he got Palpatine behind the closed doors and we didn't see what was happening, he just like walked in there and showed Palpatine a bunch of these kids. Like that's hardly worth Palpatine to kind of come all the way down for. Wouldn't you agree? But anyway, maybe I'm just over expecting stuff, I guess.
No, I totally agree in that sense. Like on the one hand, I like the fact that it involves kids. I think what you were also hoping for is what I was hoping for as well. Just something a little darker, them maybe strapped to these sort of like life, draining systems where you got tubes coming out of them with fluids flowing and Although I think that would probably be a little too dark for a kids show, but especially considering that they are kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean.
It's a fine line here about entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line as to what to expect from this level, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree in that sense. Like, I'm thinking of you're thinking of one of those machines that maybe Palpatine was like suspended to in Episode 9, right? But maybe like
something like that.
Yeah,
just or even if it wasn't any kids in there, I was hoping that like he has like that's his tomb where he's transferred all the Jedi from or something. I'm not sure. Maybe Mace Windu could have been in there. Who knows?
Right.
That'd be interesting.
That would have been cool. Yeah, that would have been super cool because they've been building this up for a long time.
Yeah, they have. So I don't know. We'll see. I think this episode is going to. We'll talk about the next episode in a second, but I think it's going to directly impact the episode following what's currently available right now. Episode 12.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Pablo points of Pudus for this one. What would you give it?
Oh, I'm going to give this one a 1 Pablo point.
1 Pablo point. Yeah, I would go there too. I think 1. It was good. Just a solid good. Sweet. All right. Let's hit the next one here. So the next one is called, it's episode 11, Point of No Return, by Nate Villanueva and Amanda Rose Minot again. April 3rd, 2024. CX2, who is, that's the clone that's the assassin guy that we saw dive off a waterfall. He infiltrates Fee's ship and retrieves Pabu's location from the Navic computer. Concerned about the risk of staying on Pabu, the Bad Batch are prepared to leave the planet when CX2 arrives and confirms their presence. He destroys the Marauder, seriously injures Wrecker, and calls for reinforcements. With their means of escape cut off, the rest of the Bad Batch evade their pursuers while Hunter tries to steal an Imperial gunship. After Hunter fails, Omega decides to surrender herself to spare the people of Pabu and enable the Bad Batch to follow her to Tantus. However, Crosshair's attempt to plant a tracker on the ship Omega is captured in fails, and CX2 leaves with Omega. So this was very much an action-based episode. I mean, from the get-go, CX2 finds them, sabotages their plan to leave the planet, and it's just basically a big action fest from there. Tug of war, like you said earlier with Omega. What are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, it was very much a tug of war episode. Starting into this episode, I didn't expect Omega to be handed off. I was expecting them to escape as per usual, so that was actually I was actually all right with that happened. But yeah, I think we're into the season finale now. Is that right? Going into episode 12.
I think it's, episode 15 is going to be the last one, but we only have like 15. Okay, 3 left though. Three left though. That's not that much.
Yeah. Okay, so this is
4
so
left.
Still
4
another
left,
decent bit of There's another decent bit. I think it's pretty obvious what will happen next episode. In terms of the Bad Batch having to regroup and try and find Omega or prepare to go find her now that she's been taken. I thought it was a pretty okay episode, although I must say, like, the whole episode being set at nighttime, I for some reason I felt it was so dark I couldn't see as much as usual, but I guess that's just a creative choice. But in terms of story wise, I think it was pretty predictable, and I felt that we are getting that real sense of tug of war. Like we lost Omega at the start of season 3, and then she's come back, and now she's gone again. Like, how much longer can this go?
Yeah.
At least she went willingly this time to spice things up.
Right. Yeah. I agree with it. And I was thinking about it just the other day, how much more it would be beneficial to this show to have a sort of non-dedicated plot line. We've seen so much of Omega and the Bad Batch. What I miss about Clone Wars is that show jumped around a lot with characters and plot lines and stuff, and you got all the different coverage, right? You got coverage of Grievous, you got coverage of Dooku and Ventress and Palpatine and Maul and Ahsoka and Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda. All these characters that got their spotlight at some point, and there's so many interesting characters in this time frame, including Jedi on the run and the Empire's on the rise. And as nice as it is to see the Bad Batch and Omega, and the more that this kind of tug of war thing happens with Omega and them constantly on the run, and it's really not changed a whole lot. And it's just, I hate to say it, but it's sort of getting a little stale with them going back and forth constantly, with her capture and then her, her being saved and then her capture again. And whether it's Bounty Hunter or Empire or whatever, it just seems to constantly be, the issue that they've been fighting for like close to 3 seasons now. And I don't know. It's like I'm kind of glad that this show is ending, not in like a bad way or good, not, I don't know. Like I've enjoyed it, but I think they can move on to some better stories. Maybe do it.
I'm glad you're saying this because it doesn't mean I'm just feeling the same way. Maybe I was holding back a bit. It is just the same stuff over and over again. We just for 3 seasons now they've been on the run, and Echo's been Omega has been the one of the main cause of targets, I guess. I think the only thing that really differs from this season is that we're actually getting a bit more of a relationship between Crosshair and Omega, but the other characters have kind of been sidelined in my opinion. And we're just getting this cat and mouse game of who can catch Omega. And that being said, like, to anyone out there thinking like, oh, I'm just a hater or whatever, but no, I've enjoyed the Bad Batch. It's good. It's been cool to see a sort of a legacy show of the Clone Wars continue, and the Bad Batch was a group of characters that was invented under the George Lucas supervision era of the Clone Wars, right? So we're seeing kind of at the end of an era with this show, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it wraps up. But at the same time, I'm also looking forward to moving on to stories within the same time frame, but that focus on other characters that are very interesting. Because I think we've hit our limit as far as what they can do with these characters that we've had so far over the course of 3 seasons. And there's been some really great storylines with characters kind of betraying the other, like Crosshair, and then coming back again. And we've seen storylines with was Echo and Rex and some of those clone commandos that we see later in Rebels, like Gregor. And it's been neat to see that kind of story, right? And Cody, we got to see Cody back, so that was pretty cool. So there's been a lot of like good moments throughout the show, but I think it's time. I think the show is just kind of hitting its limit for me in terms of like what it can do more of. And this week is kind of that was it for me. Like the fact that she gets captured yet again, and now we know what's going to happen. Like we know they're going to be going off after her, and we know they're going to try and save her. And unless this show takes a left turn completely and surprises all of us, right? And then it's like, a huge surprise that maybe they don't capture her and maybe she does end up dying or whatever, which I highly doubt they'll do. But I mean, I feel like they need to do something pretty drastic for me to actually, come around and be like, okay, maybe the show doesn't need to end. But the fact that the final season, the fact that it is the final I just realized that Cad Bane was in the last episode. I totally forgot.
Cad Bane.
We hadn't seen we didn't see Cad Bane yet. I'm pretty discussing it, but I just realized, Cad Bane's in it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I still really like the show, and that's why I'm catching up with it every week as it comes out. I think this is probably could have been wrapped up in 2 seasons or so now, minus a bit. But they better in the next few episodes really make some big moves story wise with Project Necromancer, in my opinion, for this to be worth it.
Right. Yeah. And if they don't, then I assume that there's going to be a follow-up show to this show, but called something else, and with other characters.
A spin-off of the spin-off of the spin-off.
Exactly. Or they'll pull a Barriss Offee and we won't find the answer to Project Necromancer for another 10 years or so.
10 years.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, hopefully not. I'll be like almost 40 by then. What would you reward this episode? By the way, anyone who doesn't know, Pablo Points of Poodoos, it's a scale of 7. 3 Pablo Poodoos is the worst of the worst. Moving up from there, you got 2 Pablo Poodoos, 1 Pablo Poodoo, and then a Bendu, which is a 50%. And then you got Pablo Points, which is 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the best of the best of the best. 1 Pablo Point being good, 2 being great, 3 being the number 1. So what would you give this one?
I think I'm going to give this one, even though I technically, for some reason, think I enjoyed the action of this episode more than the previous one. Previous one was a bit more and fresher. So I think I'm going to give this one a Bendu. I'm going to go straight in the middle.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I would go with a Bendu too. I think like the action was cool, but that was a lot of just what this episode had. It was good action, and if I was just going off of like action and effects and animation, like this would be a 3 Pablo Point thing. Like this show consistently is visually and audibly amazing.
Looks amazing.
It looks amazing. Yeah, it's the best produced. It's like the best quality show that they've done. Like Skywalker Sound operates on this show, and they do amazing work. Like the team at Lucas Animation has nailed it persistently. So, you know, but I mean, for a Star Wars story in its entirety, yeah, I think I'm gonna give this one a Bendu as well. So, but yeah, not to diss any other part of making that show, because it is truly a spectacle, absolutely. So, hopefully we're being a bit fair with that one.
Yeah, I think so. Imagine if they just like redid the prequel trilogy, like kept all the sound, but like just redid all the visuals in this art style.
That would be so cool.
I would go to the biggest theater and watch it like that. I think that'd be incredible.
That would be, yeah, that would be incredible, man. Wow, get them thinking about it. Well, that's all we got for this week. So thank you, Kirk, for popping back on. And I don't know, is there any last minute things you want to bring up?
I don't think I have too much in terms of predictions for the next few episodes. I just hope we get some advancements with Necromancer. And oh my goodness, I've already forgotten her name, but the Sith that appeared in Asajj Ventress, are we going to get any more of her, or is that it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this show is on the way out the door with season 3, so I assume that they have plans for another animated show, at least with her being either a main star or perhaps another show kind of like Clone Wars, but in the Empire era. Maybe it'll call it Rise of the Empire or something like that. Who knows? But it leaves me with a lot of questions, because there's really no time to wrap up like so many of these character storylines, is there?
Yeah, I have a feeling we may not get it, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Such an odd one episode inclusion.
Totally. All right, buddy. We'll see you in the next one or the one after that. May the Force be with you.
And you.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Star Wars Escape Pod. All those of you out there across the world and across the galaxy. We do love 5 stars on Spotify, no matter what planet you're on. I feel like that's the common platform that people listen to podcasts with. So do us the favor and slap down those 5 stars. That does a lot of good for us, helps us with the search algorithms, helps the podcast stand out. Share this show with your friends, because that really does a lot. And if you are a YouTube user at all, by any means whatsoever, you can look us up with the handle at SW Escape Podcast, or using the links in the description below. You can find our YouTube channel, subscribe there, and hit the bell icon for notifications each week. YouTube versions of the podcast drop typically on Tuesdays or the day after that a audio podcast is released. Unless there is a very special pre-planned thing, then it usually comes out the same day, but that's usually the way we do things there. We've backlogged all our episodes on YouTube, so you can catch them all right there. Check down the description for all those links that we mentioned about ways to get in contact with us, our email, website, such and such. Definitely check that out. Go to Yoshiman222 on Twitch, April 14th for a 3 p.m. Republic Commando stream binge. That's going to be super exciting as well. We'll catch you all on the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.